From Super League to Olympic distance to age group world records to color. Go longer with the right fuel at the right time with SFuels.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Breakfast with Bob from St. George, Utah. My name is Bob Babbitt. We're brought to you by Master Spa, Zoot Sports, the original triathlon brand. HOKA, Let's Fly, SFuels, Go Longer. Biostarks.com. Use the code BWB10 for a 10% discount. Quintanaroo. Form Smart Swim Goggles. We're here at Zion's Bank and Premium Plus Sports and our Challenged Athletes Foundation. Our next guest, Imogen Simmonds, who I think is ready for a really, really good race here.
I'm not sure. I hope you're right. I'll be honest, I'm not sure.
How's the training been going?
Yeah, it's been going well actually. I've done a solid block with another girl, Annie Reichmann, who's also competing. So
yes.
We've been training together in Mallorca, and yeah, I think I'm ready as I will be this year. So excited to race. Yeah,
well, so you won a challenge in Mallorca, right? Yeah, 23rd at U.S. Open. And then win 70.3, is it Gdynia?
I believe it's Gdynia, yeah.
Yes, nice.
I don't speak Polish.
So you look at a good season.
Yeah, well, I don't know. That's taking the highlights, I suppose. It's always easy to look at those and not everything else. It hasn't been an obvious season for me. I was diagnosed in February, end of January, with a labral tear and FAI. So I spent the next 6 weeks on crutches and was off running for 3 months.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So to be honest, I didn't really expect to even be here. So actually just being here is quite exciting.
It's sort of
a
win for you. So you're sort of playing with house money a little bit. It's not like you have nothing to lose.
Yeah, exactly. I wasn't expected to be racing until kind of end of September, early October. So I felt ready in August and went for it, and it's so far turned out well. So let's see what happens.
Sometimes when you sort of have your back end of the season, you know, when your season starts later, you're fresher. Where a lot of people have been doing a lot of racing.
Yeah, I guess perhaps physically in a way, but I think at the same time, the mental toll that having an operation like that and the rehab process and having everything just scrapped from one day to the next is something that's not to be overestimated, especially as a full-time athlete. I think I almost underestimated how much of an impact it would have on me. So yeah, I'm really lucky to have such an amazing team around me, incredible sponsors, and family and friends who just really have my back, because it's been a bit of a roller coaster of a year.
It sounds very similar to obviously different in terms of Lucy's recovery, but her season when she got a stress fracture basically didn't really start until so late.
Yeah.
And you go through, and she was told, hey, forget about the season, start thinking about 2023. And I'm guessing you were probably looking at it the same way.
Yeah. So I was completely no weight bearing for 6 weeks.
Wow.
Which, it is what it is. But I think also the running, just because of the form of the injury, quite a few athletes have reached out to me since and asked if they have a similar thing, or told me their story. So definitely not the only one to have this injury. But yeah, it's just it was really quite a long recovery process. And also I've actually had the tear for 2 years by this point. So my whole muscular pattern had completely changed and had to be retrained. So I've spent a lot of time on rehab and everything. So
in terms of your running form and running gait, that type of thing, was it affected by this?
Yeah, absolutely. Because of the tear, I actually couldn't engage my left glute at all for about 2 years. So I don't really know how I was managing.
That's amazing.
I still raced in that time, but I
guess you won Finland.
No, I didn't win Finland. I came third in Finland.
Oh, you were third in Finland. What, in 2021?
Yeah.
Oh, you were third in Finland. Okay. but you got, what, 6th in Florida and 5th in South Africa. So you're still racing well.
I was racing okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you look back, and your background fascinates me because you got into triathlon at the age of 10? Is that right?
No, it's not right. I did my first triathlon at 10, but then I retired.
Out of it.
I retired very rapidly.
You retired at 10. Well, your first triathlon was at 10, and then you took, 11 years off? And
I
came
did
back
take
when
11.
you were 21?
I took an 11-year hiatus.
So what? When you first did a triathlon type of thing, or I never want to do this again?
It was more something to keep me occupied for a weekend, I think.
Okay.
I think a high energy child who needed to be entertained. So yeah, and then I kind of rediscovered triathlon whilst I was studying at university.
Yes.
And yeah, so
well, and then
love, really.
when you get third in 2019 at 70.3 Worlds, that changes things, right? That's all of a sudden people are like, okay, if you can be on the podium at the World Championship, there's no reason you can't be one of the best in the world.
Yeah, I think for me that it changed my mentality towards it. Certainly as a career, like I saw that I did have the potential to make a career out of it, rather than just like at the time. I think maybe I was thinking, I'll spend like a couple years in the sport and have a good time, and then I was like, oh, okay, I can actually do this. And obviously, when you're young, I was pretty young compared to now then, but you haven't had that like hit of injuries because I started late.
Right.
So often you don't get injured until like a few years into sport.
Yes.
And then I've had having that run. So it's a learning curve, right? Like you progress quickly at the start and then you kind of take a few steps back, and hopefully I'm taking steps forward again.
Well, and that's the hard part is you take those steps back, and sometimes that's like, okay, I'm done. I'm going to move on. Again, you've got a master's degree. You could go on and get a quote unquote real job if you felt like it.
I suppose I could do, yeah.
But this is way more fun.
It doesn't seem a very fun idea right now.
No, and then your Ironman debut, Ironman Frankfurt, you qualify for Kona, get 12th, right? You got second in Ironman debut, and then you get 12th in Kona.
Yeah.
And what was that experience like?
Oh, Kona. Oh. It was hard watching
it this year. It makes you smile, huh? I bet.
Yeah, watching it this year is like, I think all of us after not seeing the race for a couple of years, we were all reminded of just how magical that place is.
Yes.
So yeah, obviously it's on my to-do list. Like obviously I'm very pleased with 12th. It was my first time there, but you always want more, don't you? So I definitely it's one for the list to go back to and hopefully improve on that. But yeah, I mean, at the moment, I think I've changed a bit my mentality towards it and just like taking it each race at a time and enjoying the process as much as anything.
So one of my favorite guys when we talk about the history of our sport, Jürgen Zach, back in Phuket, and that's now. How important was he in terms of taking you from one level to the next?
I think he was instrumental without a doubt. So yeah, I trained under him for 4 years and spent a fair amount of time in Thailand, Phuket. And also I think racing in Asia at the time was really important to me because it really opened up the ability to race very frequently, to race throughout the year, to race at a high standard, but also at the time it was not easy, but like it was easier than racing in Europe and you could earn decent money. So I think for the first few years I managed to fund myself through that.
Right.
So it's a real shame now that like racing in Asia has decreased so much.
It has, hasn't it?
Yeah, well, I suppose
through COVID,
like it's just events can't happen. So that's it. Like there's not much anyone can really do. I think if you're in the country it's okay, but since then it hasn't really grown, and I think people were still a bit nervous about traveling so far.
Right. Do you see your strength as more 70.3 or more full?
I suppose at the moment, yeah, like I just haven't had the endurance base on running in the last few years that I need to have that endurance in for long distance.
Right.
So yeah, before I had the operation, I spent out of the last 2 years, I think I spent like 10 months not running just because I had injury, like symptomatic injury after injury, and it took 2 years to diagnose that actual problem.
It took a while to figure out what it was.
It took a long time. It took MRI, like multiple MRI scans, multiple doctors. and being told that I had muscular imbalance a lot, which I knew I did, but I didn't know why.
I think everybody does.
So yeah, but there we are.
Yeah, and when I look at, 2019, you had you had three wins, second Ironman Jersey. Would you look at 19 as your best year?
Yeah, I have to say 19, I was very lucky I had the year I did then, because that was also the year before COVID.
Yes.
So I had the chance to secure some really awesome partnerships as well, and who have stayed with me, and that's been just fantastic. I can't thank them enough. And yeah, it was certainly like a breakout racing year, and I raced a lot more in the European scene that year as well, which I think was very important. I think that is one of the strongest scenes for racing.
When I look at Singapore and Thailand and now racing in the U.S., the cool part about this sport is it does take you all over the world.
Oh, absolutely. It's such a privilege really to be part of the sport at the moment, and to be traveling with it, and to be allowed to travel. So forever grateful for that.
Now, I noticed you're also with Phoenix.
I am indeed.
And that is our friend Chris McCormick, the charity that he helped create. How important has that been to you?
So I started with him this year, and I started with helping Nicholas Spirig on the sub-8 attempt.
Were you part of that?
Yeah, so because I could only cycle then, so I had an amazing time, and it was awesome. Her kids being around there and like seeing firsthand that. It's just incredible what they're doing, and introducing children to sport and high level sport, and the professionalism that's required in sport these days, especially triathlon now, from such a young age. So it's incredible, and yeah, I hope it's inspiring a whole generation of triathletes and making the sport even bigger than it is today.
I love the whole sub-8, sub-7 was really fun to watch, especially Kat Matthews and Nicola going back and forth. It's not often then when Nicola passes you that you pass her back.
It was incredible,
right?
Honestly. Like,
Kat was so amazing.
The mental fortitude that those two girls shown was absolutely breathtaking that day.
So fun.
Yeah.
Now, when you guys were riding, you were set up a pace line to try to make it so that Nicola had to use as little effort as possible so she can save herself for the run. That's a lot of pressure.
It was a lot of pressure. We had a couple of close shaves as well, so that was like a bit nerve-wracking for everyone.
Yeah.
But yeah, nothing terrible happened. We rode pretty decently. On our team, we were a bunch of triathletes, and the other team were all pretty much professional cyclists. So I think we held our own pretty well. But yeah, it was an amazing event. It was honestly incredible to be part of, and so unique. I think that's what made it so special, and to see those 4 athletes just perform at such an incredible level, all 3 disciplines, was insane.
Yeah, when I look at Nicola Spirig and what she does with her foundation, and I look at the Brownlees with the Brownlee Brother Foundation, I think they've brought like 40,000 kids into triathlon. It's what you guys do for a living can be very selfish, ride, run, swim, that type of thing. But the giving back part, I think, makes that the rest of it makes sense. Do you find that? Absolutely.
I couldn't agree with you more. I think like for most of the year, it is a completely selfish sport, as you say. Like, it's about you. It's about, if you're not doing those 3 disciplines, you're looking after yourself in some other way.
Right.
And so to be able to use what time and energy you have left over to give back to the sport and to the community, I think it makes it a more wholesome experience as well, because otherwise it is just about you.
It's about you running around. And
I guess everyone's different, but at the end of the day, like, if that's not who you are intrinsically, like, then after a certain point, you're like, okay, I need to give back, do something more.
And you see that Jan Frodeno as well, but acting as role models and understanding that it's that next generation that's important, in using sport to help other folks is really, at the end of the day, what it's all about.
Absolutely.
Love it. Have a wonderful race. And now, since your season is sort of just getting going, I'm guessing you're like looking through the calendar going, okay, what's in December, what's in January, because you're finally healthy.
Yeah, I am finally healthy, touch wood. But I think if I've learned anything, it's to play it all a bit more by ear, and to be less focused on having a set plan and sticking to it, just because that just adds a certain pressure to you that isn't always healthy.
Right.
So we'll see what the rest of the year brings along. I got a lot going on at home as well at the moment, so it's life's a balance,
what do you got going
right?
on at home?
Oh, you don't even want to hear the start of it.
Imogen, thank you so much for taking time.
Thank you very much, Bob.
Imogen Simmonds has been our guest, everybody. Thanks so much for tuning in. We will catch you next time. See ya.